In order to write properly, it's very important that your paragraphs are properly structured, and you need to write down the paragraphs for each separate idea. So it's very necessary when it comes to academic writing that you know how to develop your ideas in a certain paragraph, starting with the topic sentence, and then after that uh, talking about the same topic which you have started in the topic sentence and discussing it in the rest of the paragraph through sentences. If you look at this example, the main topic is regular exercise. However, each topic sentence of a separate paragraph is leading to the same topic, that is regular exercise. However, every paragraph is talking about a different thing, different idea. So all different ideas are put into separate paragraphs, and each paragraph is given a topic sentence, and all those paragraphs are linked to the main topic. It is very important to know when to stop and start another paragraph. You might have seen that Word document is in like one page of the Word document will not have two paragraphs, but it would be a complete entire one page without any breaks, that is paragraphs, and it seems very odd. So normally it's a very rough guide that you need to have one or two paragraphs in one page of a Word document. However, it depends on the ideas as well. So for example, if you're talking about one idea and it ends, then you may start another paragraph. In order to link the paragraph, uh, it's very important to write transitional sentences or transition words. So at this stage, it's very difficult to write complex transitional sentences. However, you can use some words or phrases which are known as transitional words, and are very helpful in linking one paragraph with the other paragraph, or one idea with the other idea, even if they are contrary to one another, or they stand similar, or they are actually the consequence of one another. So we have already studied punctuation in the previous lectures, so I don't need to go into detail of that. Therefore, if you have any confusion, you can go to the previous lectures and study those punctuations, and you'll find an answer. Why knowing that a proper use of grammar is very important? I guess everyone knows that if you're using incorrect grammar, tense, or form of the verb which is incorrectly used, then obviously it will have a wrong impression, and your writing will not have that much weightage. Therefore, it's very important, especially in academic writing, that you need to write in proper grammar, and you need to follow the rules, including punctuation rules. Okay, so it's normally students commit mistakes, and those common errors that are committed are listed here, which we are going to discuss. It's very common that students commit spelling errors, and especially those spellings which are similar in some ways. So if you can look at the examples mentioned, like for example, definitely, while typing definitely may change. So it's like in typing it happens. However, in writing, because it's the memory of your body, so sometimes it's not very common that it will occur. However, if you have learned the incorrect spelling of any word, then it may happen when you're writing. But if it is typing, then obviously it's a machine generated a spelling sometimes. That is, sometimes if you have misspelled something, it would automatically correct it, that is autocorrect, and it might not correct it to the word which you have desired or which you wanted to write. So you have to be very careful while you are typing. It's a punctuation error. That is, you need to write a comma after an introductory word or a phrase. So if you're using any adverb in the beginning of the sentence, conjunctive adverbials, then you need to put a comma. Or if you're writing a phrase, an example is given, and especially when you're writing a prepositional phrase in the beginning of the sentence, you need to put a comma over there, otherwise the sentence would seem incorrect, especially when it is academic writing. So you need to be very careful. The third very common error is that normally students, they do not write the proper references. References and sources we have already discussed. So sources is something which is like from wherever you are taking the information. Obviously this information is not from your mind. You have not made that information, you have read it somewhere, you have copied it from somewhere, and it is very important to write the references from wherever you have taken the information, and you need to write it down and mention it in the sources or references. Like for example, you are writing a quotation and in an essay, and you do not write who said that, so it's an incomplete information. So you need to write complete information. That is, you need to have the name of the person or the source. That could be website, the link of the website. Another common error that is normally committed is the use of the pronoun reference. So pronoun reference is that a pronoun should clearly refer to its antecedent, that is, whichever word it is replacing, because we use pronouns when we are replacing a noun. So if you look at this sentence as an example, you'll see that there are two names mentioned who were battling. However, they state in the same sentence, he became angry. Now we don't know who became angry. That is why it's very important to state the name, or to state a proper pronoun in order to identify the antecedent. Here it's very difficult to identify. So in order to cope with this problem, you can write the name of the person. Like for example, you can write Luke became angry. It is a very common mistake, and it is committed by almost everyone. In spoken, it seems fine because when you're speaking, the context is already there. But when you're writing, and especially it is for academic purposes, then you need to be very careful about the pronoun agreement. Pronoun agreement is that your pronoun should agree in number and in gender with the noun. So for example, if you're talking about a male and you write she with it, you're talking about a single person and you write they, it's very important to be clear when stating pronouns. If you look at the example, there are two correct forms of one incorrect. You can, go for any of these two forms. The wrong one is, if you want a child to learn, it is helpful if you make learning fun for them. Now, basically, we are talking about a child. It's not children. So, you can change a child to children, or you can change them as well. And in that way, you'll make it correct. Faulty sentences are formed because we more focus on the spoken rather than written. We are actually writing whatever our mind is speaking, and that's wrong. You need to change it to writing. It's very difficult, but you have to think before you're writing. Now, a faulty sentence is when you start a sentence in one way and end it in another. Means there is no link with the verb forms, or maybe with a theme, or the two clauses are not in relationship with one another. That is, they are not opposite to one another, they are not adding, or they are not the cause of one another. Then there comes a problem. So you need to pay close attention to your sentence structures and look in the structure whether these 2 or 3 or 4 structures that you're adding in the form of clauses and you're adding them to make a sentence, are they linked? Is the verb form used is correct or incorrect? That is, you're starting with the present tense and then you're ending with the past tense. You're starting with the, unless and until your sentence requires a past tense in the beginning of the sentence and in the second half of the sentence, then it's fine. But if it doesn't, then you need to be very careful. Okay, very important. Run-on sentences. Run-on sentences are also called fused sentences, and it's because you have put two complete thoughts or independent clauses together without the proper punctuation or any kind of sentence boundaries that we normally set. So what happens that when you put two independent sentences or independent thoughts together, even though those thoughts are, can stand by themselves, but you have put them together, which is like useless. So you need to be very careful when you are writing that your sentences should not be run-on sentences. And the example is given in the next slide. A very important thing, comma splice. Comma splice occurs when you use a comma to separate two independent clauses. Normally a comma is not used for that, but when you use it, then it means that you have committed this mistake, or I would call it a crime, because it's not allowed in academic writing at all. So if you're writing a message to your friend, then it's fine. But if you're writing it for academic purposes or it's an assignment, then you're not allowed to do that. It's very important to remember how to use proper punctuation when you are combining two independent clauses together. If you look at this sentence as an example, That is, he promised me if I didn't report him, he would never do it again. However, the next night he was back playing his bagpipes under my balcony. In this example, you see that the only error is the comma error, and that is between again and however. Why do we call it a comma splice is because there is a new sentence starting, which is actually an independent clause. So when there is a new sentence starting within which you have a first phrase after which you have put a comma, as we have discussed before, and then you're again putting a comma, there is very vivid difference. That is, we have one independent clause and then we have second independent clause. Then how are we going to combine these two together? By putting a semicolon. So you have to be very careful. The correct form is given here as an example. A very common error which is committed by almost everyone, that is sentence fragment. And the problem with that is that it's very difficult to identify unless and until you proofread it once or twice. Because in spoken, it seems okay to you. However, when you're reading something which is written, then it might be identified. What is sentence fragment? It is incomplete sentence that you might have punctuated, or maybe it's without punctuation, but it is an incomplete fragment. Now what do you need to do? You need to find out the fragments which are missing in that sentence. There could be a verb missing, there could be a phrase missing, there could be a subject missing. Some part of the main sentence is going to be missing over there in the sentence, and you need to identify that. So that sentence would sometimes seem like a dependent clause. The examples are given below. Spelling errors are commonly committed sometimes because we don't know how to spell, or sometimes unconsciously. There are certain words which are very confusing, and because we are non-native speakers of English, therefore it is more difficult for us to understand what's the difference. So certain words that are to be kept in mind, which are very confusing, are mentioned here in these slides. Go through them, read them, and you'll understand